drop some nuggets. I've gotten some positive feedback that we have a lot of good information that I talk to personally with agents and things like that. So now I want to kind of start sharing that information with you guys. I know the market is going to or getting a little different. I'm not going to say it's tough, but it is different. And we have to be innovators and we have to figure out kind of how to get through it all. And I know it's harder to gain clients with you guys having to do your broker agreements and things like that with the client. So I just feel like having certain information and education on the mortgage side when you're speaking to your clients can help you with earning your client's business and becoming the expert. Not saying you have to be a lender, but just being an expert on the basics. And of course, I am always available to answer one-on-one questions, but I want to give you enough information to be dangerous so that way you can talk to your clients in a different light. So it is 12:03. I'm going to give it one more minute and then I'm going to start right in. Please feel free to drop any questions or comments in the Zoom. We are live on multiple platforms. So even if I don't see all of the messages or my team doesn't get them, we will make sure we get a response to everyone. So that way you can have the answer to your question. And that way you can utilize this product, which our topic today is how to be the listing agent on a 203K loan, on a home style renovation loan, on a VA renovation. I talked to a loan officer yesterday who was interviewing and he told me that he thought that renovation loans was terrible, right? So as it relates to him interviewing for me, right, you can tell he didn't do a little research before the interview, because if he did, he would know that I am a 203K expert. I love renovation. Renovation loans is the reason why I am so successful in my career. I'm providing a solution to a problem that many people do not want to talk about. So I have over 20 years experience. I actually assisted with starting the renovation department at Rate. I'm now at Guarantee Rate Affinity, but I did do the test files, send in my resume, worked with Christine DePape to really build up that department and get it rocking and rolling. So excited to be one of the original 203K gals on the team to bring renovation to life. And the reason why I did it was because I did my own renovation loan. It was quite terrible. I had to figure everything out on my own. And once I was successful at it, how much value it brought to me made me realize why renovation loans are something that we just need, especially in our communities. So it is 12:05, and I just want to thank everyone for joining today. I am Loans by Natasha, MLS number 332004. I am your lender, right? So we are today on my Lunch and Learns. This will be every Tuesday. We'll have different topics. Feel free to email me. Feel free to drop a message on what do you want to hear us talk about on these Lunch and Learns. We want to make sure that we give you the content that you need so that way you can have the data you need to be successful with your clients. And I will get started here. There is a magic question, and I know we can't hear everybody. And that question is, what do you really think about renovation loans? So if you guys can drop that in the chat. But I will tell you, most of the people that I talk to, they think that renovation loans are terrible. They think they take too long. They think that they're never going to close. Closing times are horrible. Some people will say that renovation loans are amazing. They bring value. They give you the opportunity to, build wealth and do a rehab without the burden of having to put 25% down. So think about that question, right? And then at the end of the slideshow, we'll see if you have the same answer to that question. The types of renovation loans that I offer at my current company. So I do offer FHA 203K all day, right? We're offering the standard and the streamline. A lot of lenders that do not offer the full-blown 203K, they try to convince your clients to stay in the 203K streamline. Well, guess what happens? If your client doesn't have the money to finish that project, now this purchase becomes a burden and a strain on their finances, on their family, on their job, on their mind, right? So you want to make sure you have enough money to finish your project. So you definitely don't want to squeeze in a $30,000 rehab when you need $200,000, because that's having you start off in a bad position from the beginning. Now we have some new exciting advances on the 203K, and that is on the streamline. We can spend $75,000, guys. 75. So that whole $35,000 max on the streamline, that is now one and done. You can go up to $75,000, right? And that is absolutely amazing. But if your client needs $100,000, if your client needs $150,000, and the property will appraise, you want them to go over into the full renovation. The interest rate doesn't change. The only thing that changes is how the contractor gets paid on the streamline versus the standard, okay? And guess what else? They recently launched changes to the standard. So instead of financing 6 mortgage payments, we are now financing 12 mortgage payments in that process. Keep in mind, the property has to appraise for the renovation and the mortgage payments, but now the government, I guess, received the text message or a message or a memo that the city is just not issuing permits that fast, right? So with that being said, now they're giving the rehabs a longer chance to finish, and they're allowing you to finance those payments so you don't have the burden of paying your rent or your current mortgage plus your new mortgage while you're going through that renovation, or while your client is going through that renovation. In addition to that, we have the conventional loan product. We have the home style renovation, right? And we have our Freddie product, our Freddie renovation product. Those are 2 conventional products. Fannie, right, which is 1 engine. So we have Ginnie, Fannie, and Freddie. Fannie and Freddie are the conventional government engines. Fannie will allow 5% down on a 1 unit, a 2 unit, a 3 unit, and a 4 unit, guys. That is absolutely amazing. That is new, all in January 2024. That was a new thing then. Of course, with the conventional, you're going to get the higher loan limits. FHA 203K, going to have a little more fees, allow a lot more flexibility for bankruptcies, lates, and dings on the credit. They can go as low as 580, and it's 3.5% down for that 1 unit, that 2 unit, that 3 unit, or that 4 unit, right? ADUs is a new thing in Chicago, where now we are allowed to do ADUs. Well, on our Fannie product, 5% down, they don't allow ADUs. Our Freddie conventional product doesn't allow 5% down on those 2, 3, and 4 units, but they will allow the ADUs. FHA 203K will allow the ADU as long as, and this is for all the programs, as long as the units do not exceed 5 units. So if you have a 3 unit in a coach house, I can work with that, right? If you have a 4 unit in a coach house, that's now 5 units. So that's going to be a problem, but we can talk about it, because when you remove the kitchen, it's no longer considered a legal unit. Guys, you can have your clients working with an 8 unit that they're turning into a 4 unit, of course, has to appraise, right? They can do a 6 unit, turning it into a 4 unit. They can do a 5 unit, deconvert it to a 4 unit. Yes, listing agents, all of you guys with those 5 unit properties, they're not moving because people want to put less money down. Well, think about this. You can actually have that kitchen removed, have that stove removed, and now you have a 4 unit property. And now the rest of the world that wanted to put 3.5% and 5% down on that particular property, now you have more buyers for your property, because now you are selling it as it can be a 4 unit, which is a really big difference. So what I want to do today is I want you to kind of think outside the box as it relates to how you can utilize the programs to benefit you and to move your listings, right? VA renovation, only 2 units. They want the rehab to be done in about 3 months. Basic stuff, no structural, right? And then in addition to that, they are going to only be able to spend about that $75,000. Once again, this is just like a streamline. You give them a VA property, it has ugly kitchen, it needs some updated tile, needs a new garage. You can slide right on into that property, $0 down, and I can get them the rehab money up to 1 to 2 units. And in addition to that, if they're a disabled veteran over 80% and they have the sufficient reserves, I don't even have to qualify them with property taxes, which helps them have more buying power. So we have so much when it comes to renovation. So if you're tuning in today and you're one of those listing agents that just hate renovation loans, I'm telling you, renovation loans can change the trajectory of your listing. And you got to think outside of the box. If you have a 5-unit, consider offering the option to deconvert it. You have to tell the narrative so that way the client can understand that they do have options, because everyone hasn't met me yet. And you guys can feel free to share my information so that way they can get with the right voice in the right place, so that way they can see what programs are available. I also offer renovation refinances. If you sold your client a property, they're in trouble, they have building violations, you know, they may be in demo court, permanent injunctions on closed cases, right? I can refinance them into a renovation loan and get them the funds to fix up their property. Why is this good for the client? Because on FHA, I can go as low as 580. And if they're in a hardship, oftentimes they don't have the best credit. But when I do my one-on-one with them, if I can suggest something cheaper than a renovation loan, even if it's not going to commission me, I will always try to allow the client to stay into their low interest rate and provide them an alternate, very inexpensive solution. So when I do that one-on-one with your client, I will decide what lender they should work with, whether it be me or somebody else that has a cheaper option for them. But I love my clients that have those 2019 3% interest rates, and it's just in my heart. Even if I can make a commission, it's in my heart to let them keep them. So I work with them in different ways, like referring line of credits, and other options that may help them get that money and get them out of trouble. Saying we have to stop losing our houses for small things like receivership and building violations, right? We got to stop doing that. So when we start talking about our problems, we can provide solutions. And I'm the type of lender where if I can't do it, I have a lot of lender friends and I will refer you to them so that way you can win, right? Types of repairs, pretty much everything, right? And I know I'm not saying it as an understatement. You can have 48-inch appliances, right? We're not going to let you get the ones that I want. What are the name of those appliances? I got to think with the gold knobs. Jenn-Air, those are my dream appliances, just so you guys know. I want Jenn-Air appliances, 230 fridges, you know, I want all of that. But I think those appliances cost like $36,000. So I can't go that high, but you can go to Home Depot Pro Desk. I can get you some 48-inch Samsung and things like that. But you can have nice appliances. You can have really nice towel. Of course, you cannot ship some towel from London. That's going to cost $50,000. But you can go to a regular, really nice premium tile store and you can get nice tile and things like that. So you don't have to rehab your property to just be basic. You can go all out on these renovation loans. Pretty much what they don't like on the renovation loans, a few things, and I think I have those in my slides, but of course you can't build you a tree house, right? On some of the products, you can repair a pool, you know, but you can't add a new. So there are some stipulations, but as it relates to master bedrooms, master bathrooms, hardwood floors, flat screen TVs, fireplaces in the wall, metal back porches, right? Building a deck off of your bedroom, adding addition up, adding addition out, right? Finishing the basement. You can do all of those things to make your home beautiful, as long as you have the drawings to support what you're doing, and the property will appraise, right? The property will appraise after you finish the project. And this is a little example of kind of a before and after picture of a property. Like you can do all things renovation. Like I said, you can go up, out, and all of that good stuff and expand. You can open up the entire floor plan. The sky is pretty much the limit, as long as it'll appraise and as long as you have enough funding in your project to complete the project. Why choose a renovation loan over cash? So let me tell you guys, and I'm an open house girl for some of my agents, right? I like to have a relationship, a long-term relationship, because open houses are a lot of work. But let me tell you about my agents who like to list before sold and who put things under contract before they get a chance to do open house. That's real easy. And congratulations, you had a hot property, you were able to sell it fast. But when you allow yourself to have one day of open house, and when you allow yourself to have one day of open house with a lender like myself that is going to work with you at your open house, especially for the hot properties that where you're going to get 20 and 30 people pull up because you just have an amazing property, listings bring buyers, right? A lot of people are coming in on Redfin, they don't have any realtors. And I know this because I do open house on Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm only saying this because what happens is that you lose clients. And when we're talking renovation, the cash buyer is never going to spend the same amount of money as my buyer with a Natasha Robinson pre-approval. And let me tell you why, because they're going to live there, right? So if you, especially if you are the bank, right? If you're representing Fannie or Freddie on a transaction for foreclosure, somebody comes in at $100,000 cash and my buyer is $120,000, they already own the mortgage, right? So what is the rush for, right? I can close a renovation loan in 37 days, and I'm not going to give you a pre-approval unless the borrower really qualifies. And my process is extreme. Like, I'm going to ask some questions, make sure they have time. I'm a little more tough, and it's not because I want to be tough. It's just I want to make sure that they understand how much things cost. They understand that they cannot complete a basement rehab for $8,000 in 2025. That may cost that may cost $20,000 to $80,000 depending on what they're doing. I had a property that I rehabbed maybe 15 years ago for $35,000. It caught on fire 6 years ago, and 6 years ago I had to pay $165,000 to gut that place out and redo it again. Now keep in mind, who knows what it's going to cost in 2025, but what I do for my clients is I try to guide you so that way you understand. And I'm no contractor, and I'm never going to act like a contractor, but we are going to encourage you to have these contractor conversations, Zoom in with that contractor, so that way you understand how much it's going to cost in real life to complete this project. I just found a building I fell in love with. I'm like, yes, I'm about to rehab this for $200,000. And I've been doing this for a long time. And guess what? My contractors are coming in between $350 and $358, and that's 3 separate bids. When in my mind, and I'm a lender, because it already had furnaces and hardwood floors and doors and drywall and plumbing, I thought that I can rehab that property for $200,000. Well, guess what? I'm a licensed loan officer, not a licensed contractor. So what I did was I went ahead, the professional people bid it out. And now before I close on my loan, I'm not going to be $158,000 short, because I did my due diligence to make sure I knew what I was talking about. So only saying that, guys, to let you know, if it's a cash buyer, you're going to oftentimes get less than a regular buyer. And yeah, you may not want to fool with the renovation loan, but imagine you going to Fannie and Freddie saying, hey, I was able to get you this money, and we only closed 2 weeks later than we would have closed with the cash buyer, because I'm working for you and not for the quick sale, right? That's going to make you look good, and that's going to make the bank want to keep listing with you because you're making them more money. And guess what else you're doing? You're giving my buyer to have a chance to have a seat at the table. They want to win too, right? Just because they don't, not flippers and investors and don't do this every day, they want an opportunity to buy the same houses that are nice in their community and live there and rehab them too. So you're giving a buyer, a person from the community, the option to get in and gain some equity. I have had hundreds of clients that do this project. Appraisal comes back $100,000 overvalued. And guess what? My clients aren't selling it. Now they just have $100,000 in equity that they can use to send their kids to college, to do their next investment or whatever. So when you consider a renovation loan with a lender that can actually close, you give the opportunity for the buyer, for the community, right? For the same face to be on the block that lost the property. So you offer and you create so many opportunities. And I know cash buyers are great and they're going to win sometimes. But if you can get more money from my buyers, I'm going to advise you to give them that opportunity. And I guarantee you through that process, I'm not going to waste your time, because if my clients are not ready, I'm going to be open and honest with the agents. And I let my clients know that I'm not the lender you want to use to fake it till you make it. We got to come ready to close, because we are putting on a performance, and whatever we do today is going to affect the client that agent accepts next time. So if I can convince the listing agent to accept my offer over cash and we don't close, guess what? That listing agent is probably never going to want to do that again. So what I'm going to do is make sure that my buyer is solid, that they understand the cost of the construction, that they have their 7 contractors in their Rolodex and they're ready to call as soon as they get that executed contract, and that they already have a worksheet. They know how much money they have to have in the bank. They know how much money they're going to need at the closing, and they know how much money they're going to have to advance in that particular project. Of course, things happen, but things happen just with cash buyers. And honestly, from my experience, cash buyers are sometimes more flaky than our regular buyers as well. Yes, and I'm going to keep moving. I can't see if we have any questions yet, so I will tune in soon for questions if we have any on the Zoom we can see in this session. I love to talk about this, guys. How to identify when you have a bullshit renovation pre-approval. Excuse my French, but I actually call them pre-approvals, right? So you want to make sure that if you listen to me and I inspire you today to accept the renovation loan, don't just accept it because I inspired you, right? You need to also read through the print. If somebody gives you a pre-approval and it does not reference homestyle renovation, FHA 203K, VA renovation, then they are not approved for a renovation loan. The pre-approval must say the product, because we have to select the correct product in order to run it through automatic underwriting, which is what every loan officer should be doing, right? So when I run that pre-approval, I have to have that correct product in there to make sure that my findings are correct and I did my job right. So that's the number one. Get a pre-approval for a 203K. Do not say 203K, reject or send an offer back and request an updated pre-approval. The pre-approval should also reflect the purchase price plus renovation. So if I'm purchasing your listing and it's $200,000 and it's a gut, and you know in your heart it's going to take me $300,000 to $400,000 to rehab that property. If the loan amount on that pre-approval is $400,000, that is not enough. So you are beginning your process with somebody who does not have enough money. And let me tell you what buyers do when they're not really pre-approved and we tell them they're not really pre-approved. They go silent for a little while. Then they start calling other people. And then what they're doing is they're holding up your property. And then you don't want to accept another 203K because they are so terrible. No, what happened was we just accepted the wrong offer because this pre-approval does not support the loan amount that will be required. If the loan amount says $400,000 and the LTV says 96.5, when you divide 400,000 by 96.5, that is how much they're going to be spending on their renovation plus their purchase price. So once again, this is very important, listing agents, when you are accepting the 203K, because you want to make sure that you can see that they have enough money. And you're not going to always know what they're doing. You're not going to never know what they're doing. You're not going to never know what it costs, but just reality of what it'll praise for, because you can see the comps for a finished product in your area. You can kind of put two and two together, and don't be scared to call the lenders and ask a lot of questions. I have a lot of agents that call me and I absolutely love it. And just so you know, I'm available every Saturday and Sunday. And the reason is because I try to get all my offers accepted before the bankers that only work Monday through Friday, come back to work. And guess what? Your sellers are at home on the weekend. They're off work. So why can't we get an accepted offer on a Sunday? Right? It just makes it better for all of us, right? Estimated closing days. If your lender puts 3 months on your pre-approval, pay attention to that. Renovation loans can close in 37 to 45 days. How? Because we have a process for it. And because buyers should not be getting pre-approved before they go under contract. They should be already pre-approved. And pre-approved means that their income, their assets, their documents have been verified, back underwriting reports have been pulled, and we have ran DU findings, and we have an approved eligible. And we can also see any conditions the government is going to require on that client's particular situation, right? So that is a big deal. So you want to make sure you have a pre-approved buyer and they can close in 37 to 45 days. I'm a 37 girl, but I leave my 45 days because contractors will let you down. They're the hardest part of a renovation loan. And that's another question you can ask as a listing agent. Has your client identified a contractor or two? Because if they're going into this contract situation and it needs a renovation and they don't even have anyone to call, that process can take another 2 to 3 weeks, which they should be doing before they find a property. They should at least have the contractors in their Rolodex that they're going to call to come out when they do find a property. They can do that by coming to, like, I'm on Dearborn, I'm a Realtist, and we do have membership open, but they can do this by coming to our developer summits, by coming to our events, by going to the renovation room. They have so many different ways that they can find contractors. As an agent, you can refer them contractors, but unfortunately, I cannot refer them contractors. So that is something you want to take on, but that is something I require of my clients during my pre-approval process. And just so you know, lenders matter, right? So if you offering a 203K with a lender that they've never heard of that can get a renovation loan done, and your client's been looking for 3 years, you might want to consider getting a second opinion and changing that lender. If you have any client that's been looking for a property and you have been losing every single bid, you should consider getting a different lender. And I will tell you, when you work with the Natasha team, I actually do call my listing agents and I do reach out to them to tell them why they should choose my client over their other 30 bids or 10 bids. And I also try to deliver what I promise all the time, right? And if something happens, because things happen, I try to communicate effectively and efficiently to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that, you know, we can get our deals closed on time. We never know what's going on with the seller. We never know what they need to do with their funds when they close. So all I try to do is meet the closing date on the contract so that way we can get to the finish line. And for all my listing agents that's listing the properties, and this is just on my heart today, that's listing properties that are not finished, can you please tell the lender? Because what you do in attorney review, we can't see. And these interest rates are so weird right now. So if I lock them for 30 days and it takes 90 days, that gets very expensive. So if you know you're in a transaction, you're going under contract, the project not finished, what happened to me 4 times last month, let your lender know how much time you need to really lock that loan, because those locks can get expensive. And the date on contract does matter. So if the date on contract says we closing in 30 days, as your lender, that's what I'm thinking. If you thinking you're gonna close in 90 days, then just make the closing date 90 days on the contract. So that way the lender, without talking to you, can plan ahead accordingly.
Natasha, you do have a question, and everyone is also commenting like, this is so good. Thank you so much for the information. Coach Cola wants to know, do you require the contractor to get on a call with you to discuss the renovation budget?
Hey, Coach Cola. So I don't require it, but it's nice, you know, like I don't require that the contractor has to talk to me. But if the contractor has questions in regards to the process and how they get paid and things like that, I have no problem getting on the call. I think that it's best for the contractor to at least do a live, like contractors are busy. So I think that you should go to a property, even if it's not a property that you like, and then you should walk through with that contractor on a live or show them all of the pictures. Some listing agents are nice and they will give you the pictures of the property inside and out. And then it won't be an exact estimate, but I guarantee you how much ever you think it's going to cost is going to be $20,000 to $40,000 to $60,000 more. So what I want you to do for the call is just to understand that these renovations is not as cheap as you expect. The values are not as cheap. You're going to get more value. It's going to cost more. You know, it is what it is, but I just want you to have a good understanding. I don't want to convince the listing agent to accept your contract over a cash offer. And then you think the renovation is 100 and it's 300. So now, of course, you're going to cancel that, right? So I at least want you to have that knowledge. But if anyone wants me to do a one-on-one with the contractor, I am always delighted and love to talk to the contractors to get them on track. But thank you, Coach Cola.
Awesome. You have one more question from Sharon wanting to know, are there any common delays or challenges in the 203K loan process that agents should be aware of?
Yes. The number one common delay is the time you get started. So if you go under contract on Monday, on Wednesday, they should be scheduling you a contractor or the HUD consultant. Sometimes they need HUD consultant. If it's anything structural, a HUD consultant is required, or if they spent over that $75,000, a HUD consultant is required. But yes, that is the number one biggest thing. People will go under contract and I will be looking for them for 2 weeks, right? My goal is to have those numbers within that 7 to 10 business days so I can get that appraisal ordered. Because if I have an approval, which I normally have within 24 hours, because I already pre-underwrote the file, and if I can have the appraisal back within the first 2 weeks, now I still have 3 weeks left to deal with what contractor am I going to use, getting the right bid and all of that. So that still gives the client a little more time. But I would say the number one problem is that. The number two problem is the expectation of the cost of construction, which we talked about earlier. And number three, and I might want to make it my number one, is that everybody has an Uncle Pookie who knows everything about construction, who did this, who done this before, who at the end of the transaction, we're going to find out don't even have a GC license and we have to start over. So if you want your project to be successful as a listing agent, you should let them know, look, We're not going to be coming back and forth to the property 24/7. I know we have some properties on lockbox, but it's nice for you to know when they're coming because you can control, the steps, right? You want them to have all those contractors come on the same day. So if you come in there and you got a buyer, they got a 9 o'clock, a 9:30, 9:45, a 10, and a 10:15, that client is getting in and out and they're doing what they need to do so they can be on time with your property. Sometimes when you give them the lockbox codes, they come and go as they please. And because they have more time to spread it out, they're like, oh, I don't want to talk to the contractors at the same time. Well, guess what? It's okay for contractors to compete for business. It's actually healthy and it's good for the client because it helps them, not get gouged as well on the pricing. But those will be my 3. But like I said, we could circumvent them in the beginning by just having that friendly conversation. And of course, as a listing agent, I'm going to protect my buyer. So I'm not going to call you and say, oh, my buyer is terrible. But the number 4 thing, which I also want to make a number 1 thing, is listing agents don't check up. Like they will call me on day 37 and say, what's the status? And I'm like, oh my God, I've been waiting on you to ask me. I can't call you and tell you that my client dropped the ball. I can't call you and say, oh, your listing is going to be delayed, right? Because my fiduciary responsibility is to my client. But if you check in with me and you say, hey, what's the status? I'm going to tell you the truth. I am still waiting on documents, or I'm still waiting on my contractor bids, right? So if you ask questions in each mark, I would say ask in the 10 or 14 days, the 21 days. But most of the listing agents, they don't come above water and ask what's going on until the day before or 2 days after closing. And now they're so upset because this was a property that's about to foreclose, but they never even asked me for a status update throughout the transaction. So those, I would say, would be the 4 most things. And that's why I have this call, like how to identify bullshit pre-approval, how to, screen the buyer and things like that, because this is so important for you guys. And thank you for asking that question, because you have to ask questions, right? So before you accept that offer, you should be having a conversation just like this with the lender, right? And if you want to call me, right? Like I know a lot of the lenders that are really good at this. For a long time, it was just me, but we do have some other people in the industry that I know that do a really good job at 203K. And it's exciting to me because it's enough business for everybody. I just love when people know what they're talking about. And I just love when people are experts in what they do, and that's what I do. And it just enlightens me and gives me the renovation high of knowing that there's other people out there that knows how it's supposed to be done and is doing it how is it supposed to be done. But thank you for that question. I know that was a very long answer. Any more questions, Emeka?
Not right now, but they are saying thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's talk about what happens after contract, right? So we talked about this a little bit. 48 hours after contract, contractor and consultant should be scheduled, right? You wanted the property, this was your dream house. You won the bid over others. Okay, so schedule your people right away. In my pre-approval process, they already have this process down, the phone numbers of who to call. So they're pretty much ready to go at this point where they can move things quickly, right? Appraisal should be requested within 7 to 14 days. It's a little harder to do that when no consultant is required. Why? Because they have to get the bids from the contractors. And sometimes the contractors are like, oh, I need drawings. Well, you're not going to have drawings because I don't own the property. So we're going to have to get some type of bidding going on here so we can get an appraisal ordered. And if they are changing the layout, right? Like if they're moving bedrooms or bathrooms or changing sizes of bedrooms, they have to give us a layout. That layout, it does not have to be by an architect. You can literally get a pencil, draw it out. I just need to know the exact size of what the bedrooms are going to be and what the kitchen is going to be. And just to show it to me so that way the appraiser can lay it out. And then he's going to compare it to other properties. Sometimes layout matters for value, right? All my files are pre-approved before they go under contract. So as soon as I get the contract, I am then requesting the updated earnest money, the insurance quote, and then I'm submitting that up for approval while I wait on title as well. So you should have your approval before you get the appraisal. And if there's any weird conditions on there, we try to pre-underwrite things, but sometimes things happen. We try to get all of those cleared, like with those first couple of days, because what we don't want to be delayed for is anything that has to do with the loan part, right? Renovation loans is expected to deal with the contractors, and that's the only thing we want to deal with. So anything loan problems should be resolved before contract, And now we're just getting through the numbers, which is the hardest part of renovation loans. Contractors should come the same day. As a listing agent, I think you should give them some type of disclosure. Congratulations on your contract, just so you know. If you can please schedule your consultant and your contractors, on the same day. Like the consultant has to come first and then the contractors, but when the contractors come, they should be on the same day. Don't let them come every day with a different contractor. It's not good for them. It's not good for the property. It's not good for the contractors. Let them get all them in there. They can space them out. 10:30. If they love Uncle Pookie coming, let him come 10 to 10:45. So when he walking out the door, you can have somebody 10:45, 11, 11:15, 11:30. And now you got in and out. You have options. If one contractor come in too high, too low, let you down, the client is set up for success. This is the secret sauce. If you get 3 to 4 contractor bids on day one, you guaranteed to not have any delays on construction. If one of them didn't have a license, and I get this every day with the contractors, oh, I got to renew my license with the state. So now I got to wait on them to update their paperwork and all of that stuff. So now we need a new contractor because they can't update it in time. But if you have 4 contractor bids, when that happens, you don't have to come back to the listing agent and start all over again. To speed up your timeline, having them contractors come on the same day, demanding that they come on the same day, will help you not be stuck in waiting 3 weeks for Uncle Pookie to come back to not have a license. And now you got to have 4 more contractors come out. And that is the biggest, longest delay on a renovation loan. And we just don't allow for it anymore because it just doesn't make sense for it to happen. I tell all my agents, and you're the listing agents, but if you're representing a buyer, you want to see references and work for after COVID. A lot of people did a lot of great things before COVID. Well, I did my own renovation during COVID, and I was right there when things were just increasing in my eyes. And the cost of joists, truss, wood, lumber, whatever you guys want to call it, everything is way more money now. So you want to have somebody that's working with today's prices so they're not learning on your dime, right? Because contractors have to learn. As a processor, I made mistakes. I've made mistakes as a loan officer through my career, right? But you have to make some mistakes to learn. So you just don't want to be the guinea pig in your situation. So I would definitely tell you, you want to work with contractors that have done renovations after COVID. And request updates every 7 days. We talked about this before. This is another number one reason why listing agents hate renovation loans, because they don't ask for updates until 2 days after we were supposed to close. Now they're so upset and they're mad, and they don't understand that I work for the buyer. I can only give you information if you request it. I can't just generously tell you that you have things going on in your file. You have to request that information. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, that's why I love Ryan Smith. He's one of the REO agents in the city, but when I tell you he's gonna follow up, communicate, like all through the transaction, and it's very important, right? And he does represent the banks, but if you want to be a top listing agent on renovation loans, even if you just got to get an assistant that's doing it for you, find out what's going on, because 9 times out of 10, 21 days on a bad pre-approval is wasted on just air. Nobody's doing anything during that time. They're calling, they're trying to get a contractor, they're busy at work. And I tell all my clients, if you're too busy to call me back, go buy something already fixed up, because renovation loans are not for everybody, right? You got to have time to meet with your contractors, and you have to be able to be efficient to get your paperwork in. So definitely keep that in mind as well.
We have one more question from Coach Cola. She wants to know, how does she find a contractor?
So finding contractors seems to be the number one question of the day. So I would say the first way you find a contractor is to go through your sphere of influence, right? You want to be referred a contractor. Some contractors are good for Nancy, but not for Craig, right? They're good in the summertime, but not in the wintertime. So just because a contractor has been a good contractor once doesn't mean that they'll be a good contractor for you. So I would say first step is to get referred. Another good step is, and this is something that I want to start working with this year, is to go to like your you know, we have a woman's contractor union situation in Chicago. I think they're on Michigan, right? So you can reach out to them and see if they can link you to a good contractor. We have a room that's called the renovation room. I know a lot of contractors are starting to charge, I think like $400 to give you a quote. I'm sorry, guys, don't get mad at me, but I'm kind of against that. I don't think you should have to pay $400 to get a bid on the job. You know, I'm even really willing to take it on a Zoom walkthrough, but I mean, for a borrower to pay $400 for a bid on a property they might not buy is aggressive. So I definitely don't recommend you pay for your bids. Some people have to do that in certain cities. But in the renovation room, if you post, you know, that you're looking for a good contractor, a lot of times you'll get a good response. Keep in mind, the renovation room is a Facebook group. They've done amazing with growing their followers, but some people in that room are brand new, never did it before. Some people have experience. So you need to go, we didn't have this before, but you go to ChatGPT and just ask a series of questions to their contractors, go look at their work. You know, you want to make sure that they do good work that you like. Their finishes might not be to your satisfaction. You can check them out on Better Business Bureau. Oftentimes if people have a bad experience with the contractor, they will go to Better Business Bureau. I know that Angie's List is out there. So you want to just really, your best contractor referral is word of mouth. And getting a referral from someone. If you have an industry partner, 9 times out of 10, they have contractors. And I know for you guys that's in Chicago, I started my career off at Chatham Chamber of Commerce, and they are absolutely amazing. So you can reach out to your chambers and they can refer you individuals that are inside the chamber. So that way, if those people mess up, you can at least report them back to the chamber. So I hope that answers your question, but finding a contractor is the hardest part. And if you're thinking of renovation, or if you're thinking of being a listing agent for a renovation client, try to get 7 people you can refer. Post on your social media. Can you refer me your best of the best contractors? The best contractors don't work for people anymore. They only do their own flips and rehabs. But there's still a lot of contractors that will work for people. So you just got to find those people for yourself or for your clients. Awesome. And this is my timeline. You know, Guarantee Rate wants me to tell you guys that we're going to close in 45 days. I'm a 37-day type of girl. I would like to close in 30 to 37 days. And we kind of went over how we do that with getting the contract consultant out within the first 48 hours, getting the appraisal ordered in 2 weeks. And then after that, we're waiting, you know, by that 3.5 week for them to tell me what contractor they want to use, because I only need 1 bid. Even though they go get all those bids, they only need to send me the one they're going to use. After that point, we're going to validate the contractor. No, the contractor does not have to be a licensed contractor for Guaranteed Rate or for any bank that they do business with. We're going to validate them, which means we're going to check their references. We are going to check their references. We are going to check their trade lines, make sure they have sufficient assets to float the project, and make sure they have experience, that they've done projects like your project, you know, within the past couple of years. So my team is going to screen those contractors. And after that contractor is validated, is what we call it. Then at that moment, we're setting your file back up for clear to close so we can get them scheduled. And yes, at the closing, the seller's going to get paid. To all my listing agents, you do not have to wait on the buyer anything. And then the money for the buyer is going to go to an escrow. And then once they get permits, they'll start the renovation. So at closing, the seller is done, deed is transferred, and after that, the borrower is working through to finish that rehab. Yes, ma'am, but thanks for that question, Coach Cola. And that's pretty much my presentation, guys. So we'll see if you guys have any questions. I hope I've inspired you today to let some of my buyers be the buyers on your listing. If their bids are higher than the cash offer, I know if the cash offer is the same, it makes sense to go with that cash offer. But definitely, if you see my name out there on a pre-approval, give me a chance. I try not to let you down, because it's free marketing. And if I do a great job, of course, you're going to accept more renovation loans. And then you're also going to know that we can get them done. And if you have any listings under contract on a renovation loan, under contract, no communication, been delayed for a little while, you know, I'm definitely here to give second opinions on those contracts and help you get those files to the finish line as well. And if you have any questions, you know, you can always reach me on Instagram at Loans by Natasha, Facebook, Natasha Robinson. And then, of course, my website is loansbynatasha.com. It's my pleasure to come to you every Tuesday at 12 o'clock for Lunch and Loans. And if there is no more questions, Emeka.
We have one more actually. Mr. Mia wants to know, does the renovation loan include the money to buy the property and pay for renovation?
Yeah, so the renovation loan is one loan. We're going to take the purchase price plus the renovation. We're going to combine them together, and then they're going to put 3.5% down if it's FHA or 5% if it's conventional. And just so you guys know, renovation costs include the contractor bid, permits, drawings, some, other fees that are in there for the consultant to do the inspections. And it also includes mortgage payments. So renovation costs has a lot of things that's lumped into there. And then we pay off the purchase price. And of course, when we add the two together, you're putting the down payment, and then the property has to appraise out as well.
Awesome. They also would like to know, do you do loans for Texas?
I do. I am licensed in Texas. I actually do a lot of loans in Texas, weirdly, but that is definitely one of my states. I'm licensed in 21 states, and I don't know all of them offhand, but Texas, California, Atlanta, Georgia, New York, New Jersey, all of the surrounding Chicago, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana. For some reason, Connecticut and recently Tennessee, but I am licensed in 21 states.
Awesome. They are just chiming in and saying, great loan information. Thank you so much. Someone else also wanted to know, do you do loans in Florida?
I do. Thank you for asking. Yes, I do. I do.
All right. I don't see any other questions right now, but it looks like everyone is saying very useful housing loan information. Thank you so much. So they enjoyed the topic for today.
Awesome. And if you guys have anything that you want to kind of hear me talk about, let me know, because I'm not an agent. I don't really know kind of everything you guys pass daily, but just from my experiences, I'm going to come up with the topics that I experience every day. But if you have something that you want to hear me talk about, that you need answers to, let us know. If you missed our Smart Buy $40,000 grant, that was last week, but we do have the recordings for that, so you can email us and we will definitely let you know. When you scan the QR code, there's an inquiry form. You don't necessarily, it's not just my loan application, but you can complete the inquiry and you can just put any questions or topics that you want me to discuss, or if you want to schedule a one-on-one just to go over the array of what we do and how we assist our agents, you can tune in for that as well. But as always, it is my pleasure. I am Natasha Robinson, your loan officer, MLS number 332074. And I will see you guys next Tuesday for Lunch and Loans.